Yo, what's up, guys? Frosty here, doing another hand of the week video for you. Um, just quickly before I start, Team Online week's going on right now, and if you weren't aware of my Twitter contest, check it out on Twitter. Just go to my handle, go through my tweets. It's like the third most recent tweet or something. And yeah, if you want to participate in my contest, just retweet this tweet right here, and you're in. On the 24th, I'm going to be picking a winner at random out of everybody who retweeted it. It looks like we're at 299 right now. And if you win, you get entry into a 22-man tournament. Finish in the top two, and you get a chance to play four Team Online members heads up. And if you beat them all, you win a PCA package. If you don't, you still get $500 for every match you win. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. And yeah, as for the tournament, if you don't finish in the top two, the other 20 people still win 50 bucks. So, nice little bankroll boost, bankroll builder. If you're at the micro stakes, like I said, it's all free money. There's no downside. You literally just click the retweet button and you're in my contest. So check that out if you haven't already. Check out the other Team Online members contest too. They're all doing their own thing for the same prize. So, hand of the week video today. Going to be the same format as the first one I did during the first week of October, where I just loaded up the 12 biggest pots from my session today. I think you guys are going to appreciate this format more. I mean, it's just more hands, just going over 12 hands instead of one. I'm going to go back and forth between the two formats because I think there's definitely more value, or not more value, but I think there's also value in going into more details. What I was trying to say, more detail about a specific hand, but these also just require less prep for me. Like I don't remember many of these hands. I've gone over a few of the hands just briefly to see what they look like, but I haven't really wrote down any thoughts or anything like that. So it'll be cool. You guys will get a fresh perspective. I played these hands today, so I mean, as soon as I load up the hand, I'm probably gonna remember it. Things have been going well for me, well-ish. I mean, I haven't just been able to log in the volume that I want. There's just been, I don't know, birthday, Thanksgiving, hockey, Team Online week. There's been stuff going on this month. It's been busy, but still not like really a great excuse for me just not logging in more hours. But I've also been putting like a lot of work into my game away from the tables this month too. Like definitely more than usual. Just really trying to not be complacent and trying to improve. And I'm definitely happy with the way that's been going. I feel like I'm on top of my game right now, like playing as best as I ever have. Really going to be looking to like move up stakes as the year ends and into 2015. Right now I'm just basically mixing 100 NL, 200 NL, full ring, and 6 max. I mean, I've obviously played higher before, but it's also just a function of the games running. Like, there's just always tables running at these stakes, which is nice, especially when I've been struggling to get the hours in. It's nice to be able to just start and stop sessions quickly. But yeah, I'm winning at like almost 6 BBs per 100 this month, so obviously really sick, like really happy with how I'm playing, how things are going. Running pretty well though, there's no doubt about it. I think I'm running a little bit over EV too, so or maybe a lot over EV, I don't even know. But yeah, I think I'm playing pretty well. So with that said, let's just jump into the video here. This isn't my HUD that I play with. It's big. I don't want to get into it. I don't really want to give it away. Don't really need to focus on the numbers that much anyways. So I just got the default HUD up there. I think it's like VPIP, PFR. I think this is aggression factor, which I hardly ever look at, or it's not even in my HUD normally. So, and then the last number is 3-bet. So that'll give you an idea of who we're up against, and we'll go from there. So we open queens. Looks like a weaker player on the button. Calls us. Willie goes for the squeeze, and we get overcalled, which is definitely not something you see super often. Let's just quickly talk about ranges. I mean, guy on the button has his favorite hand. He has his hand that he won at the local casino with last night. I mean, we don't know what he has. Wooly never has a bluff, I think, because I think he has to expect the weaker player to call very, very often. But I do think he has like an extended value range. Not really sure how low that goes, but probably probably as low as like king 9 suited, like king 10 offsuit, maybe like some medium low pocket pairs he might be squeezing to isolate with. Probably some speculative stuff in there from time to time. 9-10 suited, 7-8 suited, maybe Jack 10 suited. So yeah, I think we're well ahead of his squeezing range. There's just no question about that. Uh, I don't really know what to make of this overcallers range. I feel like we have him crushed usually. I think that most players just want to put in a cold 4-bet with kings plus here. You know, I can maybe see them wanting to flat to keep the weaker player in, but if you're flatting here with aces, and then there's a very good chance I'm going to be flatting at least, and then the weaker player comes along too, all of a sudden you're four-way to a flop with aces or kings, and that's not even a great situation anymore. So I think we're really looking at a range of something like 8s or 9s through queens, and then maybe something like ace jack or ace queen suited could be reasonable. So when it's back to me, I just think we have a pretty good 4-bet spot. I don't even think it's that close after thinking about it. The problem with calling is that we're going probably 4-way to a flop, and any king XX, any ace XX flop is going to be a pretty big disaster. Not to mention a whole bunch of other potentially disastrous flops like 7-8-9, like an all spade flop. Like, I mean, without flopping a queen, there can still be some good flops, but for the most part, it's just going to be pretty tough for us to win the hand, I think. So I'd much rather push the equity pre-flop here, even if everybody folds. I mean, we still win a pretty sizable pot. So I think 4-betting just has to be the most plus EV play here. I was thinking a little bit about sizing, and I think I mean, as far as game plans go, I should probably definitely have a 4-bet fold range here. So if I want to do that, I should probably make it small. In a vacuum, I don't mind just like shoving here though. Like there's just so much money in the pot already. You know, if we click it back small, we could potentially go 3 ways to a flop, and it's still not going to be a terrible situation, but it's not amazing. And if Wooly has his mind made up already that he's just going to go with jacks or 10s, like we just want to let him do that. So yeah, I think in a vacuum here, I don't mind just shoving. We're at a pot limit table, so I think I just make it as big as I can. Surprisingly, the weaker player just pops the money in there, so feeling pretty good about that. Wooly doesn't have a hand, and the overcaller folds. So I think I was right about my guess about what the overcaller is in there with. I mean, obviously, or he would just back raise on us. So we'll just let the rest of the hand play out at this point. And we make a full house. And he is ace 3 of diamonds, so might have worked out for him well at his poker game last night, but luckily for us, it didn't work out for him today. Okay, regular opens the cutoff. Looks like again a weaker player calls the button. I think we could call here. I think we could 3-bet here. I think both are good. I think I prefer 3-betting in this spot, especially because he's a little bit shallower anyways. It's just going to be easier to get money in on low flops. We won't have to play as many streets. Like, if he calls here, we can pretty much make it a 2-street game, which is good for a hand like pocket 9s, because obviously any overcard that rolls off is potentially bad. There's still going to be a lot of flops that are going to be kind of difficult to play on, but still with the initiative, like any like 9 high flop or lower, we can be pretty happy about just stacking off with, and even if it comes like king high, we can just c-bet and probably assume that we're not being bluffed if he shoves on us. So again, like I think calling would be fine here, but I think we're just going to see so many folds from the cutoff just because they should be opening so wide that we can isolate the weaker player a lot, and even taking it down pre here with like $3 of potentially dead money is, you know, pretty solid. So I think both are fine. I go for the 3-bet, and he just smashes it in my face on me, and I'm very surprised. With no reads at all, and this player profile type, I think I just have to call. I just think like he's got like a 15% 3-bet, so I think like aces and kings can probably be discounted quite a bit, because I mean, if he's 3-betting that much, like I don't really see him just deciding to slow play. Although maybe that's his game plan, I really don't know, right? But yeah, I think this is most often. Um, well, I can't really say specifically what it is most often, but I think we're going to see like some stuff we're in really good shape against, like potentially lower pocket pairs, and then potentially like an ace 7 suited type hand, ace 7 offsuit. Um, and then I think we're just flipping a ton. Like he's gonna have like king jack, king queen, like some ace king, ace queen. So given the randomness of this player and the strength of our hand, five-handed, and he's not even 100 BBs deep, and I think I can discount queens plus. I think we just have a call, and we flop straight, and he has ace king. So 2 for 2. It's looking good so far. Yeah, this was a pretty interesting hand. I remember this one. So we have a reg isolating another weaker player. I call. I think this is pretty standard, and I think most people just call here. It's not a spot I love though. Like it's just not great. Like we're gonna have to check fold so much, and even if we do flop a set, we have the worst position at the table, and it's gonna be really hard to get paid from a regular anyways. Like most of the time if the money goes in or something on the flop or the turn, like they're gonna have a better set. So it's not a spot like I really love, but that said, there's just so much value against the weaker player when we do flop a set that I think it's probably correct still. And I mean, yeah, like I'm pretty sure it has to be correct, and probably just standard obviously. And boom, we hit a set. So plan's working so far. So I mean, I like leading here. The problem with checking is that I mean, like it seems awkward to lead here because it's a board that's so good for the preflop raiser. But the problem is I don't really see the preflop raiser ever c-betting to 3 people with like king queen. Like they're gonna bet their ace x, I think, but they're probably checking like everything else. And the times that the weaker player has ace x or like 9x or 5x or whatever that he just doesn't want to fold and it checks through, that's pretty brutal for us. And even if the preflop raiser does bet, we can't check raise because, like, I mean, one, we just like have no bluffs if we check raise. So like it's pretty obvious we have value on this board texture. I mean, check raising would be out of the question. Like we could call, but if the positions were switched around or something, and like we were acting after the weaker player, but before the reg, and then the reg could isolate, and then the weaker player could call, and then we could raise. Then that's great. Then I'm all for that. Then we can put more money in against the weaker player right now, and just hoping it folds an ace. But the way we're sitting at the table right now, I mean, if it checks through any bets, we have to call, and then it's still not bad because we could lead turns and stuff. But I guess my point is that I just like don't expect him. The main point is that I just don't expect him to c-bet without ace x. So the times it checks through is pretty bad for us, I think. So I do like leading here. I mean the regs are gonna know I have value most of the time. Like there's a couple bluffs I could have here, like 6-7 or like 8-7 suited with like backdoor flushes. Like I could lead that. I could potentially lead a hand like 9-10 or like 8-9, like something that I just feel like I can just try to take the pot down now, maybe turn it into a bluff on later streets against the regs. Like so there's some non-value hands I'll have. But yeah, for the most part with the weaker player, I'm just going to be having value. So dry, I think half pot's good. Fortunately, the weaker player folds and the reg calls. And then we see a 6 of spades turn. So at first I wasn't really happy with my play in this hand, but the more I think about it, the more I actually do like my play. The thing is, when the reg calls here, I feel like it's going to be really hard to get 3 streets out of him without being behind, which, we're just not getting 3 streets of value. But I just think he has ace x most of the time, and we lead into 4 people. I think our betting range on this turn, and yeah, even even my bluff kind of got there if I had like 8-7, like I just made a straight. So once I bet this flop, I think just by betting the turn, my range is going to be so strong, and then yeah, it's just going to be really hard to get two more streets of value. So I decided to check here, and I think it's actually really good because it really helps protect my checking range here because like I'm going to be leading a lot of ace X on the flop, like ace 10, ace jack, ace queen. I could be as strong as ace king here, but I'm definitely going to have like some suited weaker aces that are going to want to check this turn, given what I think the regs range looks like at this point, which is probably like, ace X and sets himself, and maybe something like pocket kings or queens. But yeah, and just so I think this is probably the perfect hand to have in my checking range here to just protect it, just because I don't think I can get three streets from this anyways. Like if I had, pocket nines or, pocket aces, I think that's probably just better to go bet with because we don't block any lower sets. But when we have bottom set ourselves, it's going to be really hard to get value from anyway. So I think this is a decent hand to just put in our checking range and protect the times we have ace 10 and ace jack. The hands that really don't want to take two barrels of heat, considering we're only bluff catching, and it's pretty hard for him to have bluffs after he calls the flop. So I go ahead and check. And I mean, he can obviously have aces and nines here too, and then, so be it. But especially against more aggressive, like creative players, like there's a chance we were floated here on the flop, and now he just wants to make a play at it. So, why not let him? And it's going to be a lot easier to call down with a set of fives than it is with ace 10 of hearts. So he bets pretty big, just like a little concerning, but yeah, I don't really want to check raise because again, I'm just trying to protect all the times I have like ace X. I'm basically just trying to rep the weaker parts of my range, and I mean if I check shove here, like I don't think I get called by worse anyway. So yeah, I go ahead and stick to the plan. King on the river is a pretty good card, I think, because if he does think I have a hand like ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, and if he has like ace king, I mean, he's just always going to be shoving for value. If he had some kind of move, he might just shove and try to rep ace king anyways. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good river for us, and we're just going to check, and once again, I'm just, trying to rep the weaker parts of my range, and it doesn't work. He checks back, and he has king 9 off, so I was very surprised to see that hand. I don't know much about this player. I'm not really sure why he called the flop. I mean, it seems like this would be the kind of player who's willing to make moves on turns and rivers, just given the fact that I'm sure he probably didn't think his 9 was good on the flop, but he does block a set of 9s, and I think he was just probably looking to make a move on the turn, and just try to rep a set. And he probably put me on what I was trying to rep, which was like a weaker ace, and then on the river, he makes 2 pair. Now he beats all those aces, so he probably just feels like, okay, maybe I have some sets in my range after all. Maybe I have ace king. If I shove king 9 here, like there's a small chance I'm ever calling with like ace jack or ace queen anyways, so he just takes showdown. So I think I maximize value in that hand, and I think the main thing to take away from it is just the fact that it's pretty good to protect all the times that you do have those marginal aces. So pretty happy with the way I play that hand. Another similar spot, I guess. Reg or pro shorty isolates weaker player. I mean, this is just nothing but a call. Flop a set, pretty good start, and he checks. So I'm gonna bet here. I think he's got lots of ace king, ace queen that might check call. He could be going for some check raises with overpairs. I really don't know much about this game. I mean, you don't have to overcomplicate spots like these. I mean, I'm going to be stabbing on this board a lot. Like if he checks me here and I have like pocket 6s or like pocket 5s, like I'm probably just going to bet because I do expect it. I expect some check folds. So yeah, I mean, if I don't actually know how often somebody's check folding this board, but he could be isolating with a fairly wide range. So if he has something like ace 7 of hearts or like ace 6 of hearts or like yeah, I don't know, like king 5 suited. Like there's lots of hands that he does just have to check fold here. So I'm just going to be betting this flop a lot because it's good for my range. And if I do have those weakish pocket pairs, or maybe I have ace 2 of hearts here myself, like I still want to bet to just try to take it down. So obviously I'm going to be betting my value when I actually have it. He's pretty short, so I don't have to make it huge. And he goes for a check raise. I mean, I'm still feeling pretty good about my hand. Like, he might play jacks and tens like this, but I think he plays like over pairs like this a lot. Potentially ace queen, ace king, and flush draws as well. So yeah, not much to say. Just rip it in, and he calls, and he has ace queen. So I actually think he played his hand pretty well though. Like I think this is a flop texture where the pre-flop raiser is going to want to check very often, and you know he probably expects me to stab at this quite often too. So I think it's a decent spot to check raise and just you know win a bet from me that way. Because if he just bets, you know I'm just probably going to fold all that junk. So he can potentially try to win a bet for me that way. And when I do have a hand like this, when I do make a hand or have jack 10 or whatever, you know, he's still got 8 outs twice. So he still has some equity to call it off. And I think just given stack size, he just has to make the call there. So I think it's probably well played by both. And especially if he's ever going to be like check raising sets there or like over pairs, like I think ace queen is a fine hand to just throw in there for some balance. Okay, what happens here? Okay, so we have a shorty isolating a limper. This is kind of a weird spot. I'm trying to think of what I like better here. I mean, I'm never folding, obviously. It's just the question is, do I want to 3-bet and get it in against the shorty? Do I want to call and try to keep the weaker player in the pot? I think I sort of, I don't know. I sort of like calling. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's going to be a lot of flops that I just have to check fold, so it probably sucks. I think 3-betting is probably best here, actually. I think 3-betting is probably just better because there are going to be a lot of bad flops. It kind of sucks because by 3-betting we're just basically hoping to take it down pre-flop. We obviously have a hand strong enough to call against the shorty if he shoves, but we're not doing great against that range. So if the players were deeper here, I would almost definitely prefer to flat this hand and just try to get the weaker player to come along. And like there's so many flops we can just lead for value. We don't obviously have to flop a set. So I think if we were deeper, I'd probably like flatting a little bit better. Because then it gets a little bit dicier to stack off against the isolator, especially given positions. So even though jacks is a hand that, you know, doesn't like to take flops out of position, so I think you could go either way. I chose to flat here. Like I said, I think 3-betting is probably slightly better in this spot, but I don't mind calling either, just because we can just lead so many flops for value against the weaker player, and yeah, it's got to be a close spot, I think, either way. And then he does this. I mean, so there's the potential for him to do this too. I mean, this could be aces, but it could be a lot of random stuff. And then the shorty shoves. Honestly, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if we should be calling here or not. I just don't know how wide the shorty is shoving. At the time, I thought he was loose. I think this guy, like, we have a little bit of history. Like, he definitely shoves on me a lot. I 3-bet him quite frequently in later positions, and he seems to like to shove a lot. So I feel like if there is a player profile out there who's like shoving pocket eights here to isolate the weaker player, if he just thinks he's still winning with like pocket eights or like ace jack suited, like this is the guy. Like this is the guy who's going to be doing that. So I figured Jax is just doing fine against his range here, and you know I'm gonna be getting a pretty good price on my money, assuming the weaker player always calls. I'm still not really like even sure I'm ahead of the weaker player here, but yeah, if he calls along, at least we're getting a better price. So I go ahead and make the call. The weaker player folds. I mean, he's just clicking buttons, which is kind of nice, or it kind of makes flatting more attractive when people are capable of doing nonsense like that. Pretty terrible run out, and he has pocket 10. So yeah, it's nice. I mean, it worked out perfectly, but ugh, I don't know. Like, I think it's not a spot that I'm like super happy about at all. And I think a lot of people, when they shove in Boyarski's shoes or whatever, um, are gonna be really strong. Like potentially like Queen's Plus. Like, but again, like I hadn't really been paying much attention to this weaker player, so I didn't really know how often he does that check min raise or whatever. If he's been doing that more than once, then yeah, I think it's like never a fold. But I don't know. It's kind of a spot that doesn't come up too often with the stack sizes and the weird min raise or whatever. But yeah, I just figured this is the guy who's going to be shoving like the tens to the ace queens, and uh, we could be playing with $50 of nonsense money in there. So I like the call. I like the way I played that hand, even though I think three betting pre could be good too. What do we got? Ace queen. Just gonna three bet. I don't know. I mean, he looks again like a weaker player just based on stack size, but his stats aren't anything too crazy. But yeah, I just go for the three bet to isolate, and he calls. If he shoves here, I'm probably just side calling. I mean, again, he's just unknown player. His queen isn't great, but I think it's good enough to call against a half stacker unknown. Fortunately, he calls and we flop quad. So yeah, like I said, been running fairly good at least today. And he bets out for 18. When he bets the sizing, I just like I don't think he's like folding ever if I shove. But then again, I have seen people do this and fold. So I mean, with 100% equity in the hand, I am just going to be calling here and hoping he hits a pair or continues to shovel money in. Fortunately, he checks the turn, and I think I just want to check back. I just want to give him another chance to bluff. I want to look a little bit weaker. I want to give him a chance to hit something. And he checks, and then, at this point, I'm just putting all the money in. And he ends up calling, and he has ace king off. So, yeah, not much to say there. We open ace queen. Yeah, another weaker looking player that calls on the button. And yeah, we get a pretty good flop. Standard C bet, and he calls. I mean, my plan on the flop here is just to bet 3 on safe runouts. Yeah, and be pretty happy about it. So he calls, safe turn. Gonna go ahead and barrel. Lots of draws, lots of worse hands he can call with, and he min raises me. And so this is obviously, I mean, these spots come up somewhat regularly, I guess, with unknown players. And I think I've seen it. I think I've seen it kind of be everything. I've seen it be sets, 2 pairs, draws, nonsense. Yeah, I just don't think we can fold here. I think our hand's too strong. I think he can be messing around. I think he can be doing this with worse for value potentially. I'm afraid of 7-8. That obviously is what this line looks like. But even if he has 7-8, we can improve on the river. So I don't think we can ever fold here. And I think calling's best. It is draw heavy, but we're still fairly deep, and if he is bluffing, well, basically if I 3-bet this flop, we just fold all his nonsense, and then we're left with being up against a really strong range. Like, he might even fold his draws. So if we 3-bet this flop, we basically have to shove. Like, we're not gonna have room to fold. So we're basically just folding out worse, I think, and isolating ourselves up against a really strong range that we're crushed against. So kind of an interesting river. The backdoor flush gets there. I think there's a reasonable chance he could just be like clicking it with a flush draw if he had like ace deuce of hearts or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's clear check, and he bets 28. So these spots are gross because it's like now I just like don't think a lot of weaker players are capable of value betting thin. So like I expect this guy to be like super polarized here. Um, and like his line just doesn't seem very consistent. Just because like if he's raising the turn, he's repping like two pair or a set, and then when the flush comes in, I just think a lot of players will freeze up and potentially put me on a flush and just like check those hands back. Um, so yeah, when he did this, I kind of thought like if he had 7-8, he would just check this back, and so like I said, he can definitely have like the backdoor flush, but I don't know. I mean, I have a heart. I mean, I still think he can just have a lot of nonsense as well. And I'm getting an okay price. So, yeah, I decided to call because, like I said, I just don't think he's capable of value betting very thinly here. So, and I think just when the flush comes in, he's maybe checking back a lot of two pairs or potentially sets. So, I think he's got like a backdoor flush or he's just got like air. So I call and he shows me 7-8. So, shows what I know. um, so yeah, he went for the value bet on the river anyways, which like, I mean, I think a good player will still be capable of value betting 7-8 on this river, obviously, but I think a lot of weaker players just don't. So I don't know, he proved me wrong there, and yeah, lost that one. But I think it's played okay. I mean, now that I know this guy, plays this way, like I can obviously get away from it next time, or I still think the turn would probably be a call just because we can improve, but and we're getting such a good price. But yeah, it looks like this guy isn't really just messing around, and he's just yeah raising when he has the goods. Um, yeah, I think this is just a clear three bet for value. Not too much to say. I make it pretty big because I just don't think he cares. I think he's just calling or folding regardless. Calls, flop a set. Um, Fairly wet board. I think there's lots of gut shots out there, lots of stuff you can call with. So I do want to be betting this board, but I don't want to bet it very big, just given the fact that he's not very deep stacked. Make a 13, and he calls. Turn an ace. At this point, I kind of go for like a stack a donk line and decide to check. The reason being because I think like if he has a gutter like King Jack or King Ten, he might just take the opportunity to bluff. Um, if he has like 9x or like the last queen, like he might get scared if I bet this. So, and I'm not too worried. I mean, there's a flush draw out there and there are gut shots, but I'm not too worried about him catching up. So I'd rather give him the chance to bluff this. And if he checks back, he only has 30 bucks left and there's 53 in the pot. So it's less than a pot size bet to get them all in anyway. So I go for the check and just hope he goes for a bluff, and he does shove, and he has ace 7. So he actually hit the ace. So I think it wouldn't have mattered if I shoved or not. But I mean, his pre-flop and flop play is obviously terrible. Ace queen suited. We get 3-bet. We're pretty deep stacked. This guy seems very aggressive, 15% 3-bet. Could potentially like even 4-bet this for value, but I think most of the time this just plays well enough as a call. Pretty good flop, 7 high with the flush draw. And he bets out. Yeah, I think overpairs are always betting this flop. I think if he has, I don't know, like if he has like ace king, he's probably still betting this flop. You know, I'm probably, I mean, I know how this hand plays out, obviously. I, I, I don't know I honestly, honestly, I think calling's probably best. Like, I don't mind raising this though, and like in hindsight, especially, I really don't mind raising this flop. Like, the problem is I'm just not gonna have that much for value. Like, yeah, I think we have to call here. I think we could exploitively raise this flop, and try to fold out a hand like ace king, or um, or it's really good if he has a diamond draw. Then we just get it in extremely well. But we just don't wrap very much value. Even though my sets want to raise this flop, like four sevens and deuces probably want to raise this board. Just trying to pile more money in before another scare card rolls off or a diamond or whatever. Um, yeah, I just don't have that much. I think it's just always gonna look like a flush draw or like just BS, and I'm not really sure how much fold equity I'd actually have. If this flop was slightly different, like let's say like 4-7-5 or like 4-7-6, then all of a sudden I have like 7-6, like 6-5, 7-5. Like I have more value combos I think I can rep. But yeah, as played, I think this just has to be a call. I just think it's the best for my overall ranges. Yeah, I just like don't have enough value to raise this flop, I think. And obviously, like Ace Queen has like it has showdown within itself. This guy's three betting so wide, he's probably over c betting this spot, I would assume too. I can't say that for sure, but I kind of assume he's over c betting. Probably has like king queens, like ace jack, jack 10, whatever he three bet pre-flop is probably c betting on the flop. So I call, and then we have a 9 of clubs turn, and he bets pretty big. It's yeah, it's fairly awkward. Again, I think we just have to call. Like, I don't know how often somebody is double barreling this board with air. Like, I just don't know too much about this player's game, but by the same token, if he has an overpair, I just don't expect him to ever fold, and he could still be bluffing with hands that we beat. So I don't mind just calling here. I think it's probably fine. And the board pairs on the river, and he checks. So, I mean, I think a good player is definitely going to be check calling here quite a bit, just given that two flush draws missed, potentially some straight draws missed, not just 5-6, but there's also like ace 3, ace 5. There's actually just a ridiculous amount of draws that missed. So I would expect a good player to definitely have a pretty strong check calling range here. Like if I had pocket aces, like I would just check, and yeah, basically hope to induce from a misdraw. At least maybe not 100% of the time, because then we will misvalue the times that I have like pocket tens, but like yeah, at least some percentage of the time I'm definitely gonna have a check calling range here. I don't know about this guy, like, but at the same time, I don't really expect him to fold a pair. So yeah, I think I just have to check back here, like, and I think I will be good some percentage of the time too. Like I think he's probably gonna double barrel at least some bluffs. King queen might just double barrel, then just like, oh, give up on the river, he's never folding pocket tens kind of thing. So I think we do have some showdown value. So I check back, and he has ace king. So this is just what made me kind of think like, oh man, like should I have been raising this hand at any point? But yeah, I mean, exploitively, maybe I could just raise that flop, and he just like wouldn't be the type of player to realize that I don't have very many value combos here. Um, like I'm trying to think what I think about his play, and I think it's okay actually. Like I think the flop c bet's like standard. Like I'm just gonna have a whole bunch of stuff that I just have to fold, like all my broadways, and the turn the turn seems a little bit iffy, but at the same time he has the ace of clubs, so he could potentially shove club rivers or bluff catch club rivers or something like that. And if I'm sitting where I was sitting with like a medium pocket pair, like it's gonna be pretty tough for me to call down. So I don't know. I guess his play's okay, but I mean I'm probably like I'm basically repping like, well, I'm trying to rep like an overpair, obviously. So I don't think I'm ever folding an overpair in this spot. But I don't know. Not really sure. I'd be curious to see what people think about that hand. It's kind of weird it's kind of awkward just being like 150 big blinds deep, but I think I just kind of have to play it this way every time, to be honest. I just don't think there's really going to be a better line, at least as part of a general game plan. Like I said, Maybe exploitively I could just raise the flop. I don't really want to raise the turn when he bets like 30 into whatever it was because I don't think I have any fold equity if he has an overpair. If I raise the flop, I don't think overpairs shove always, and then we can either bet again on the turn, hope to have some fold equity, or at least check back the turn and see a free river kind of thing. So if I'm gonna raise in this hand, I think it's kind of got to be on the flop. Even though there's a little bit more value I can rep on the turn. I can rep pocket nines, I can rep 7-9, but I just don't think like an overpair ever folds. So I think I played it okay. Pocket kings. Huh. Not too exciting. Flop top set. Things are looking up. Gonna be c-betting this board very often. So even though like we have all the kings locked up, it's potentially going to be hard for him to call. I think players like never fold queens, jacks, or tens here, and then they have all kinds of floats as well. So I'm just going to bet the flop and go from there. He calls, and the turn comes a queen. I think betting would be fine, but I think this is probably a turn card that at least a decent part of my range wants to check. Like all of a sudden ace king isn't looking so hot because I do think our villain here can have queens, potentially jack 10, potentially king queen. So if I had like ace king here, it wouldn't be great. If I had like ace queen and just c-bet the flop, now that hand would like definitely want to check. So there's some hands that do want to check, and then just in a vacuum I think a check's going to work out pretty good for me here because I think people do expect you to bet these king high flops so often that they're going to have quite a bit of floats, and if I check here, maybe they stab with their floats, whatever those may be, and if they have like a flush draw, they're probably going to stab with their flush draws, and if they have value, it doesn't matter anyway, so we're just getting all their money. So and if they have jack 10 here, I mean, we're potentially losing, but if we get it in, I think if the money goes in, there's enough other sets that our villain can have and draws that we can feel pretty good about it. So yeah, I go for a check again. It kind of protects my range, lets him stab, and he stabs. I don't know. Given these sizes and how wet the board is, I don't think I'm gonna have much of a check calling range here. So it's probably gonna be a check fold or a check shove, and I just go for the check shove and. Yeah, we fold out his bluffs, but he might call with the flush draws, and if he has value, he's just always calling. He does call. And he has ace-jack spade. So, yeah, worked out pretty much perfectly. Alright, 2 more hands. We're at 42 minutes, so let's see if we can get this to about 45. Aces. Get 3-bet. This guy's pretty crazy. Never folds the 4-bets. Gonna have a 4-bet range for value here, something like probably like ace jack suited plus like pocket jacks plus against this type of player. Make it 24, looks good. Not the greatest flop, but like this guy, he just like doesn't fold to anything. He's not just like knitting it up and just calling with like queens and tens here. He's gonna have like queen jack, like 10 jack, like just so many hands. I'm just like, if I bet and he shoves, like I'm still gonna be feeling very good about it. That said though, this is a texture that I kind of just want to make this 2 streets on. Like it can potentially get very messy for me on turns and rivers. So rather than like bet really small and then like bet really small again and just give him a good price with his king jack or like 10 jack or whatever he has, I think I'd rather just make this 2 streets and like hope that he just calls it off with like queen x or has like a slow played kings or something like that. So I think I want to go fairly big here. 26. Honestly, like my plan is to shove the turn, so I think I should probably make this a little bigger. I think it's obviously fine. I think the flop is still fairly dry. If it was a little bit wetter, like 2 spades or something like that, I think I should definitely go bigger. But I think this is fine. But just because I know my plan is going to be to shove the turn, I might want to make this like 28 or 29 and just give myself a chance to win a little bit more money now and make it seem like he has better odds to basically call with the pair on the turn. He does call. and we get an 8 of clubs. So like I said, this is where it's starting to get a little bit messy too. Like if he has like Jack 10, uh, Queen Jack, like he's got like reasonable equity against me now. So um, it's not even a pot size bet either. So I think I set this up okay. It's a little bit of a big jam for sure, and like it's gonna be hard to get called by worse. Like I'll definitely admit that, but if I had like ace king of clubs here, like this is just how I'm gonna play it every time. Like ace jack of clubs, just gonna shove. Like I'm definitely gonna have bluffs like this too. So I think it's good, and he ends up folding. So yeah, we win half a stack without showdown. Seems good. All right, last hand. Min raised. Just getting a good price. This is the same guy from last hand. This guy looks like a weaker player. I mean, 3-betting is potentially an option, but I think this hand just plays really good by calling, and then we don't give this guy a chance to reopen the action. Open ender, standard check. Weaker play bets, standard call. Not much to say. Just trying to hit my draw against the weaker player. Nail it. Check. Checks back, which is unfortunate. I thought this would be a card that he would bet quite often, actually. 4 in the river. I mean, we just have to bet at this point. I think there's a reasonable chance we get called by King X, maybe Jack X, like definitely Ace X if he just has like a bad ace that check back the turn. Whereas if we check, I just think he checks most of that stuff back. So I go 10. I mean, I don't really want to like overbet this spot because I think his range is so weak. I just want to, go like whatever 3/4 pot kind of thing, a little bit less than 3/4 pot. And yeah, just hope he calls with a weaker holding. Then he makes it 39, so looks good to me. I mean, obviously I'm just gonna rip it in. I think there's maybe not a very good chance for chopping because like I would think he would bet the turn with Queen 10, which is why I was like kind of surprised to see this raise. I thought it was just probably BS most of the time. But yeah, I think this is either complete BS or like a slow played Queen 10 and we're just chopping, and he folds. So obviously he didn't have Queen 10. So I don't know what he was trying to do in the river, but it worked out. Okay, guys, I guess that's it for today. Yeah, as you can see when I'm talking these hands out, like, I mean, I didn't take any time to review these hands ahead of time, really, so I'm really just trying to work it out myself, to be honest. And you can see, like, there was a few hands that I wasn't really sure on, and I'm still not, like, completely convinced. Like there are usually spots where you can go both ways, and you can usually justify your direction. You can usually justify either direction. So I'd be curious to hear other thoughts though on those hands, like the ace queen suited hand. The pocket jacks pre-flop against the 2 shorties was kind of probably worth talking about pre-flop. And I don't know, any other spot I missed, or maybe I glanced over a spot and called it standard when it wasn't. Yeah, just curious to hear your comments and thoughts on that. And otherwise, enjoy Team Pro Online Week, and I'll be back with another video for you guys to end the month next week. Alright guys, been Frosty. Take care.